The wind is coming down off the ridge tonight, the way it always does before the rain reaches us, and I am standing in my yard with a small motor in my hand, not a new motor, a tired one, pulled from a treadmill somebody left by the road for the trash collectors. Most people looked at this motor and saw garbage. I looked at it and saw a night's worth of light for my chicken coop, free, for as long as the wind wants to blow. Tonight, I will show you what this ugly little motor becomes when you stop thinking like a customer and start thinking like a craftsman. My name is Kenji Takara. I am from a small village on Okinawa near the coast, where the wind never really stops, it just changes its mood. I have built things with my hands for over 50 years. My father taught me to frame a roof that could stand through a typhoon without a single nail loosening, and his mother, my grandmother, taught me that nothing that still has use left in it should ever be called finished. That is motenai. It is not a word about being cheap. It is a word about respect, respect for the material, respect for the work already put into a thing, respect for your own future self who will thank you for not throwing it away. Now, I want to tell you something the people who sell solar equipment do not want you thinking about too hard. A second solar panel costs you real money, often more than $100 once you add the mounting hardware, the extra wiring, the extra charge controller capacity, and a panel only works when the sun is generous. At night, in fog, under thick cloud before a storm, your panel sits there, useless, an expensive piece of glass staring at a gray sky. The companies selling you more panels as the only answer to more power are not lying exactly. They are simply not telling you the rest of the story, because the rest of the story does not put money in their pocket. The rest of the story is this: wind and sun are not the same animal. Wind often blows hardest exactly when the sun is hidden. Before storms, after sunset, deep in winter when daylight is short and stingy. A small, honest wind generator does not replace your solar panel. It fills in the hours your panel cannot work at all, and it can be built reliably for less than $50 if you know where to look and what mistakes to avoid. Here is the common mistake, and it is the reason so many people try this once, fail, and tell everyone that homemade wind power doesn't work. They go to the hardware store, buy a cheap hobby motor meant for toys, glue on some plastic blades, and wonder why it produces almost nothing even in a strong wind. A toy motor is built to be spun fast by electricity. It is not built to be turned slowly by wind and produce electricity back. This is backwards thinking, and the wind will not forgive it. What you need instead is a permanent magnet DC motor, the kind found inside treadmills, old power wheelchairs, or worn-out cordless drills. These motors have strong magnets and heavy copper windings built for torque, not speed, and that is exactly what turns lazily in a breeze and still pushes out honest current. This is the heart of the whole method, and if you skip this detail, nothing else I tell you will save the project. So let us begin properly, from the first step, the way my grandfather would begin, not with excitement, but with care. Step 1. Find your generator. Look for a treadmill motor, usually rated somewhere between 90 and 180 volts DC, sold used for $10 to $25, or free if you know someone replacing a broken treadmill. You want one where the shaft still spins smooth and quiet by hand, no grinding, no wobble. Spin it. If you feel resistance and a little electrical buzz under your fingers, good. That means the magnets are strong and healthy. Step 2. And this is the step where I must ask you to be patient with me, because it decides whether this machine survives its first real Okinawan storm or falls apart in the first stiff breeze. Is building the blades. And this is where most tutorials online lie to you about how simple it is. They show you 3 thin plastic blades hot glued to a hub, spinning nicely in the gentle breeze of a desk fan, and they never show you what happens when real wind, 20, 30 miles an hour, the kind that arrives just ahead of the rain, hits that same blade. It flexes, it flutters, and within a season it cracks at the root and tears away. I have seen this happen to a neighbor's setup. No one was hurt, but months of work went straight to the scrap pile because of a shortcut taken at the very beginning. So let us not take that shortcut. Let us build this the way it should be built, slowly, correctly, once. For blades, use Schedule 40 PVC pipe, 4 inches in diameter, about 2 feet long. This costs perhaps $8 to $12 for enough material to make 3 blades, with extra left over in case you make a mistake, and you may. That is fine. My father used to say a man who has never ruined a piece of material has never really learned to use it. Cut the pipe lengthwise into 3 equal sections, roughly at the 120-degree marks around the circumference, so each piece becomes a curved scoop, like a section of an old bamboo rain gutter from my village. This curve is not decoration. It is what allows the wind to push against the blade instead of sliding uselessly past it, the way a flat piece of wood would let the wind slip by with nothing gained. On each curved piece, trace a simple teardrop shape, wide near the hub, tapering toward the tip, and cut it out with a jigsaw. Then sand every single edge until it is smooth under your thumb. A rough edge catches the wind unevenly, and an unevenly caught wind is what creates the wobble that eventually tears a blade apart at its root. Do not rush this part. My grandmother used to say that a blade sanded in anger is a blade that will fail you in a storm, and I have found this true of far more than blades. Patience put in at the beginning is paid back tenfold at the end. Mount your 3 finished blades onto a hub. You can buy a simple hub plate for a few dollars at a hardware or hobby supply store, or, if you prefer to spend nothing, cut a disc from a scrap of 1/2-inch plywood and drill 3 evenly spaced holes into it by hand. Bolt the blades to this hub using stainless steel hardware only. Regular steel bolts will rust quickly in salty coastal air. And even if you live far from the ocean, moisture in open weather will do the same thing over time, just more slowly. Out here, a plain steel bolt can seize with rust within a single season. The extra $3 or $4 for stainless hardware is small. The difference it makes, a machine that runs quietly for 10 years instead of one you are wrestling with every spring, is not small at all. Mount the hub directly onto the shaft of your treadmill motor using a shaft coupler sized to match your particular shaft diameter, usually another $5 to $8 from a hardware or hobby shop. Before you tighten anything permanently, test the balance by spinning the assembly by hand. If it wobbles even slightly, you have an uneven blade, and you must correct it. Wrap a small amount of solder wire or a coin of tape around the lighter blade until the spin becomes smooth and even, with no shudder. I want to stay on this point a moment longer, because people skip past it and regret it later. An unbalanced blade sends a small shudder through the entire machine with every single rotation, hundreds of times a minute, thousands of times an hour, endlessly, day and night. That shudder is what shakes bolts loose over months, what wears bearings down before their time, What turns a 10-year machine into a 2-year machine? Balance is not a luxury step you can skip if you're in a hurry. It is the entire difference between something built to last and something built to fail politely later, when you've already forgotten you cut this corner. A treadmill motor already produces DC current when its shaft is turned, which is convenient, but you must handle that current correctly to protect your battery bank. First, test your particular motor. Spin the blade assembly by hand and use a simple multimeter to check what voltage it produces and confirm it is clean DC. Many treadmill motors are permanent magnet DC brush motors and need no additional rectifier. If yours shows irregular or pulsing output, you may need a small bridge rectifier, which costs only a few dollars and is simple to wire inline. Next, run the wire through a blocking diode. This is a small, inexpensive part, but it does important work. It prevents your battery from draining backward through the motor windings on a calm, windless night. I have seen this exact mistake ruin more than one person's first attempt. They built a fine generator, connected it directly to the battery, and woke up to find their battery weaker than before the wind ever blew, because on the still nights, current was quietly flowing the wrong direction. From the diode, wire into a small charge controller rated for your battery type. The same kind of controller you likely already use for your solar panel, or a dedicated small wind-rated controller, generally $15 to $25. From there, wire into your existing battery bank right alongside your solar input so the two systems work together rather than separately. A 10-foot section of galvanized pipe set into a concrete-filled bucket or securely bolted to a fence post or the side of a shed works well for most homesteads. Height matters more than most people expect. Wind near the ground is turbulent and weak. It gets chopped up and slowed by fences, buildings, trees, even tall grass. Raising your generator even 8 or 10 additional feet gives you noticeably steadier, stronger wind, and steadier wind means steadier charging, with far less strain on the bearings from constant gusting and lulling. If the pole stands free, without a wall or structure to lean against, guy wire it. 3 lines set at 120 degrees apart, anchored solidly into the ground. This is especially important if you live anywhere that sees real storms, and I would rather you spend an extra hour with wire and stakes than lose the whole project to the first strong typhoon season gust. If you are patient and use a second-hand motor found through a neighbor, a resale shop, or someone throwing out a broken treadmill, your total cost lands somewhere between $35 and $50. If you must buy every single part new, perhaps $70. Either way, this is far less than the cost of a second solar panel with its mounting hardware and added wiring, and this little machine earns its keep in exactly the hours your panel cannot touch at all. The cloudy days, the long nights, the storms rolling in when the sky has gone completely gray. Do not expect this small generator to run your entire homestead. Its honest purpose is trickle charging, quietly keeping your battery bank topped up through the night, through cloudy stretches, through the in-between hours your panel sits idle. If anyone tells you a small homemade wind generator will power a whole house, they are not being honest with you, and I will not be dishonest with you either. What it will do, reliably and humbly, is stop your battery from draining as deeply during bad weather, which means your solar panel has less ground to make up the next sunny day. That is real, quiet value earned hour by hour. Add a simple manual brake or furling mechanism, even something as basic as a rope you can pull to turn the whole blade assembly sideways, out of direct wind. For the rare day the wind grows far stronger than a trickle charger should ever handle. A motor spinning too fast for too long builds heat and voltage spikes that can damage your controller or overcharge your battery bank. My father always said that a tool without an off you can reach with your own hand is not yet finished being built. Respect the wind. It is generous, but it does not know the limits of your equipment, so you must know them and give yourself a way to protect it. Grease the motor bearings and inspect all stainless hardware twice each year, once before your region's storm season, once after. This takes perhaps 10 minutes and costs nothing but attention. It is the same lesson as an old wooden fishing boat back in my village. The boat that lasts 50 years is rarely the one built from the rarest, most expensive wood. It is the one somebody looked over honestly, twice a year, every year, without fail. I want to tell you something about my grandmother, because this whole way of thinking, using what already exists, rather than always reaching for something new, I did not invent it. I inherited it, the way you inherit a good knife or a steady hand. When I was a boy, a typhoon tore through our village and stripped the thatch from half the roofs, including ours. My grandmother did not walk to the market to buy new rope, even though we had a little money set aside that season. Instead, she sat on the front step beside my grandfather, and for 3 evenings, by lamplight, they retwisted old fishing net into strong cordage, strand by strand, patiently, without complaint. I asked her once why she didn't simply buy new rope, since it would have been so much faster. She looked at me in that quiet way she had and said something I have carried with me my whole life. The rope that has already served you once has told you it is trustworthy. New rope has told you nothing yet. That, right there, is the entire spirit of what I have taught you today. That treadmill motor sitting at the curb in someone's trash has already proven, over years of use, that its windings are sound and its magnets are strong. You are not building something out of nothing. You are asking something that has already earned its trust to serve you again, in a new way. When I stand in my yard in the evening and watch this small, unglamorous machine turning slowly on its pole against the darkening sky, I do not see a clever trick or a shortcut. I see something larger. I see a small measure of independence, a little less need to depend entirely on a company, a store, a supply chain that might fail you exactly when you need it most. Every homestead that produces even a modest share of its own power, mends its own rope, repairs its own tools instead of replacing them, becomes a small island of dignity in a world that would much rather you simply kept buying, again and again, forever. That is not nostalgia for an old way of living. That is a way of living our grandparents understood plainly, and that I believe we are only now beginning to remember we still need. Build it once. Build it honestly, with your own 2 hands and your own patience. Let it outlive the need to ever build it a second time. If you try this, I would like very much to hear from you. Write in the comments where you are watching from, and tell me what you are building or repairing this season, on your own piece of land, with your own hands. I read every one, even the short ones. And next time, I want to show you something my own grandfather taught me, how he kept a village well pure and sweet for over 40 years without ever once buying a filter from a store. It is a method almost no one living near a well today has ever been shown. Until then, take good care of what you already have. Very often, it is more than enough.